All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Mile High County College Football Podcast, episode 5.
Yeah.
Where is it for?
It's 4 that we've posted, 5 that we've recorded.
Yeah, four that we posted. We had a great week of college football last week.
Yeah, we did.
Just so many good games, even games that didn't really matter coming down to the wire. That's like, okay, I might tune into that for 2 minutes or so. So we're recording again Tuesday, like usual. Waiting for the playoff rankings show to come on. It's gonna come on in about 20 minutes or so. So again, same thing as last week. We might, once that comes on, we might stop talking about what we're talking about at the time and start talking about the rankings. So we'll go ahead and get into our recap of last week, or do you want to do rankings again to start off?
You want to start with rankings? So we'll get our rankings out of the way before these rankings come on?
Yeah. Let's start with our rankings. So, again, we'll talk about our 1 through 10 real quick and then kind of speed run 11 through 25. My rankings are all over the place. Don't clown me for them. I just was struggling to really make these rankings this week because I didn't really know where to go with a bunch of teams. But the clear team at number 1 is Georgia. 2, Ohio State. 3, Michigan. 4, TCU. 5, Tennessee. 6, Oregon. 7, LSU. 8, Southern Cal. 9, UCLA. 10, Ole Miss.
I had most of this. I had Georgia at 1. I had Michigan over Ohio State. TCU 4, Oregon 5, Tennessee 6, LSU 7, UCLA 8, USC 9. I had Clemson at 10.
Okay. So I had Clemson at 11, Alabama at 12, Utah 13, North Carolina 14, Penn State 15, Tulane's my highest group of 5 team at 16. Texas has entered my rankings up at 17. Kansas State falls to 18, UCF 19, NC State 20. Liberty has stayed at 21. Sorry, I thought they were a new enter. Illinois drops to 22. Washington enters my rankings at 23. Notre Dame enters my rankings at 24. And Florida State enters my rankings at 25.
Okay, so I had Bama 11, Ole Miss 12. I had UNC 13, Utah 14. Tulane is also my highest group of 5. I have them at 15. Penn State 16, Liberty up to 17. I had Texas 18, NC State 19, UCF 20. Then Washington enters my rankings at 21. Illinois drops to 22. Florida State enters my rankings at 23. Coastal Carolina enters my rankings at 24. And then Kansas State drops to 25.
Okay. Talk about Heisman real quick.
Okay.
We're going to switch our Heisman segment up a little bit. We're going to go 1 through 10 instead of 1 through 5 and do sleepers because at this point there's 3 weeks left of the season and the sleepers at this point are the guys in the top 10. There isn't really anybody that is outside of that top 10 probably that can really do anything at this point to enter the top 10. Well, maybe not to enter the top 10, but to enter like that top echelon, spots, top 5, stuff like that. I want to put a disclaimer out there real quick before I start talking about this. Hendon Hooker is a top 10 candidate for Heisman still. Hendon Hooker is not in my top 10 this week. And it is solely because I didn't know where to put him. There was times where it was like, okay, I'm going to put him here. And I was like, but wait a minute, maybe I should put this person over him. And so I was struggling where to put him. So I decided to leave him out this week and let him prove to me where he needs to be at after this week. Because Tennessee, we'll talk about it later, needs a bounce back game.
You're right.
So getting into my rankings, CJ Stroud is still at number 1. I've moved Bo Nix up to number 2. Blake Corum is at 3. Caleb Williams is at 4. Drake May has re-entered my top 5. I think he was in my top 5 week 1. He's number 5. Bryce Young is at 6. Stetson Bennett at 7. Max Duggan at 8. Bijan Robinson at 9. And Jaden Daniels at 10.
Okay, I also still have C.J. Stroud number 1. I don't think you can hold this weekend against C.J. Stroud. It was windy, rainy.
Yeah.
Ohio State had a bad game, but I don't think C.J. Stroud is to blame for that. I have Blake Corum 2, Caleb Williams is 3. I have Stetson Bennett up at 4. Then I have Bo Nix 5. Drake May 6. I put Hendon Hooker at 7. I think 7's appropriate. He could jump back up.
I was thinking of him in that 5 to 7 range.
Yeah, he's still in there. He didn't have a horrible game. He just didn't have a great game.
Yeah.
Max Duggan I have at 8. I have Bryce Young at 9, and I have Bijan Robinson at 10.
So, what I'm hearing is essentially we have the same people.
More or less. I think those are the 10.
You didn't have Drake May in there though.
I have Drake May at 6.
Oh.
The guy that you have that I
Jaden
don't
Daniels.
is Jaden Daniels.
Sure. Okay. I mean, Jaden Daniels, I just think is a game changer for LSU, and we saw that Saturday night. But again,
He's a beast.
that's something that we can talk about later. So again, we got about
It said 16 minutes.
16 minutes on the thing. So, but then we know there'll probably be 5 to 10 minutes more once the show comes on before the rankings start popping up.
Yep.
So we'll go ahead and start recapping last week. We'll start on Thursday night, a game that we talked about, App State versus Coastal. I mean, it's a game where it was like, did we really think App was going to beat Coastal, or were we biased a little?
Oh, bias for sure.
I agree. I even said I'm nervous about it because it is a weeknight game. I think we both said this. Weeknight game at a place that's building a culture. They've got a good team. It's not like we were hating on them for being bad or something like. But I mean, App just couldn't get the offense going.
No, they couldn't.
And the main reason was because we kept on trying to get the run game established, and it just, I mean, there was multiple plays where we handed the ball off, and as soon as we handed the ball off, our running back took one step, and he's getting met.
Yep.
He's not even getting back to the line of scrimmage. And that's not just one running back. It was all. It was Nate Noel. It was Cam Peoples. It was Dietrich Harrington. I mean,
and they're good backs. It's just
they're
Coastal
great
had
backs.
a good game plan. They out game planned us. I really don't think the talent gap was any different than it has been in previous years.
And there was also a couple times where, not a couple times, but all game where we missed tackles. We missed a lot of tackles on the defensive side, and it hurt us because it would help them gain extra yards. It would help them pick up those first downs, whereas if we would have made the tackle, they might not would have got the first down, and they might would have had to punt the ball away, stuff like that. And then those first downs lead to touchdowns.
Yep. Coastal's very quietly 8-1.
Yeah, I mean, they're a good team, but probably going to win the Sun Belt.
Probably going to win the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
I would say so.
And then we'll go to, and also something I want to integrate this week on the episode, our point system for every week. So, get one point for calling the game completely correct, picking the winner, and covering the spread. 1.5 points for either 1, picking the winner, or 2, covering the spread. So, if you covered the spread but you didn't pick the winner right, you get half a point. If you picked the game right, you didn't cover the spread right, you get half a point. So, we are both wrong, as we both took App State.
I feel like there's not going to be any games where I don't take them.
Yeah, me too. So then we'll go to Friday night. We had Oregon State and Washington. This is a game where Oregon State had entered the top 25. And they're both pretty even teams, I'd say.
100%.
And
they're both good.
Yeah. It was at Washington. Washington was minus 3.5 as of Tuesday. Again, the spreads that we go off of are as of Tuesday. So they do change sometimes. I took Oregon State. You took Washington to cover. However, because it was 3.5, Washington won by 3.
I'll take it.
You did not cover, but you did pick the game right, so you got half a point for that. I got 0. Not much I can say about that because I didn't watch a snap from it. I think it was 27-24 Washington. I think Michael Penix had a good game.
He's good.
And I think it was probably just a hard-fought game. And, I mean, the only game besides App that I watched on the weeknight games were a little bit of action here and there because there was nothing else on. And I watched some of Duke play because one of my good friends plays at Duke. So we'll just move on from that. Then we'll go to Saturday, where that was where the action really happened.
Yeah, it was.
Um,
I'll go ahead and say I didn't get to watch much. I didn't watch any 12 o'clock. I kept up with scores, but I went to the Georgia game. I was in line at 11:30, no service, but I did go back and watch highlights and stuff.
so let me like scour through here because I want to talk about some games very briefly. We'll start here with what some people are calling the game of the week.
Might be.
SMU and Houston. It's not a game that we talked about last week because it didn't really have any implication at all. Score of 77-63
In football.
in football. Yeah, not basketball, football. I didn't watch a play from it because it was on NFL Network and I couldn't find a stream for it or anything. I was trying to watch it. I was like, wow, I kind of want to watch this game.
20 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like it was an awesome game to watch because I'm an offensive guy. I'd rather watch a shootout than a defensive matchup. But, I mean, I just want to, highlight that real quick. You got anything to say about it?
Not really. The SMU guy, Mordecai, the quarterback, he had 10 touchdowns.
Yep.
That's pretty crazy. But nothing too much to say about it.
Next, I want to go to Florida and Texas A&M.
The mid-off.
We did talk about that last week.
We said that the loser of that game will struggle to make a bowl game.
And
The loser was Texas A&M.
Yeah.
41-24 Florida.
by the way, that was a Texas A&M minus 3.5. We both took Florida, so we both get 1 point.
Okay. A&M's got they've got 6 losses now.
They are 3-6.
A&M's got
And they have Auburn and I think UMass.
They have UMass.
So those are 2 winnable. Okay, UMass they should definitely beat.
Yeah.
UMass is really bad, but Auburn I think they have a chance to get against.
That is going to be the toilet bowl of the SEC this year.
And then they have LSU in the final.
They have LSU at home.
At home in the final week where we know some people like to bust people's bubbles. We'll talk about that when it gets there. But
If I had to bet right now, I'm betting my money that Texas A&M does not make a bowl game.
yeah.
After being ranked number
And that
6.
was why we talked about it. That was why we covered it. We said Florida 4-4, Texas A&M was 3-5. Whichever team, like you said, whichever team loses that game, probably going to struggle to make a bowl game if they make it. So Florida with the win puts himself in a good position. At 5 wins, and I didn't watch a lot of it, but I watched a little bit of it. But I didn't watch enough to really comment on what happened in the game.
Well, I will say this about A&M. A&M had their starting quarterback, most of their starting offensive line, a lot of guys on defense. They were out with the flu.
Yeah, they did have a flu outbreak. That is true. Next, I want to talk about 2 Big 12 games that I also did not get to watch a play of, but we did cover both of these last week. First off is Baylor, Oklahoma. They were competing for bowl eligibility, I'm pretty sure. I think both of them had 5 wins. It was on ESPN Plus for some reason, though. 2 5 and 3 teams playing each other. It was on ESPN Plus, which was weird to me. But it was OU minus 3.5. You took Oklahoma and covered. I took Baylor. I get a point for that one.
Oklahoma is a dumpster fire right now.
Yeah. I mean, Baylor is not the Baylor that they usually are, but they're still there. You know what I mean?
Did you know Baylor only has 2 Big 12 losses?
Yeah.
So
Baylor
could still make
Baylor is still in contention to make the Big 12 championship, and Baylor has games, I think, with these other 2 lost teams to where they can set themselves up really nicely and knock these other teams
Well, I think their last 3 games are TCU, Texas, and Kansas State.
Exactly.
Which, that's a tough stretch.
It is, but
They'll beat at least one of them.
they're a good team. I agree. I think so
It's
too.
just going to happen.
And then the other Big 12 game is something that didn't really matter as much as Baylor, Oklahoma, but it was Iowa State and West Virginia. It was both teams that I said, usually are pretty decent teams. And they're both 3-5. They both need to get back on track, especially Iowa State. They had lost 5 in a row. And really all heartbreaking losses except for one. Every single one was within a touchdown. I've said that on every single episode, I'm pretty sure, because we just continue to talk about them. You took West Virginia. I took Iowa State in cover. They were -7. Iowa State won 31-14. I kind of called it a little bit with West Virginia's pass defense has been really bad, and Iowa State has a great receiver in Xavier Hutchinson, and that he would have a great game, and he did. I can't confirm this. I probably can look at it here in a minute, but I'm pretty sure his stat line was 10, 132 and a touchdown.
That's
his receiving line. Betting.
That's great.
His receiving betting line was I think maybe 79.5, and I took that immediately.
Yeah, that's easy.
And I mean, he had a great game. He's a great receiver. Hunter Deckers is a weird quarterback to me. He's good, but then he's not good.
Exactly.
But also not a game that I got to watch maybe a couple plays from when everything else was on commercial, but not a game that I got to watch a lot of. And then a game that I want to talk about because the ending was controversial. Okay. Kentucky, Missouri. So, it is the fourth quarter. There is about maybe 2 minutes or less left. Missouri had to give the ball back to Kentucky. Okay. Missouri's defense had been playing great all day.
Okay.
They had the timeouts to stop the clock, but they needed their defense to get a stop. It was 3rd and short, and they come up with the stop and get the clock to stop to force Kentucky to punt. And they're deep in their own territory.
Yeah.
Kentucky snaps the ball on the punt, and it goes. It either went short and bounced behind the punter, or it went over to the punter's head. I can't remember which one. Either way, ball and snap past the punter. So the punter is running. He picks the ball up on about the 5-yard line, and he makes one of the greatest plays I think I've ever seen a punter make. He immediately picks it up, turns around, and gets it off somehow. But as he is getting it off, as the ball is coming off his foot, a Missouri player had caught up to him, and the Missouri player hits him really hard. They call roughing the kicker, automatic first down. Kentucky needs the rest of the game out. Ooh. Missouri's sideline is hot. I personally think it was a BS call.
Okay.
I think Missouri should have gotten the ball back. I'm on Missouri's side. However, great defensive game by both of those teams. That was the only part I watched. I only watched it because there was nothing else really on in those 12 o'clock time frame, and I saw it was a close game with a couple minutes left, and I turned it on.
Okay. I didn't watch any of that.
But I just want to talk about that real quick because it was a controversial ending. Okay. Another game that I only watched the ending, Syracuse and Pitt. Syracuse drops another game. Syracuse has looked really bad.
Yeah, they have. Pittsburgh locked Sean Tucker up.
Yep. And, I mean, Pitt hasn't been a great team this year, so...
No, they have not.
Again, it's not something I can really talk about. Syracuse had a chance at the end. I actually pretty sure about 4 minutes or so left, and Syracuse throws a pass, and the dude is wide open down the field, and he drops it. And it's 19-9 at this point, Pittsburgh. And Syracuse has a chance to get close and get the ball back with maybe a minute or two left in the game, as long as they lost.
It's just tough, man.
NC State Wake Forest was something that was on my computer while I was watching LSU Alabama and also Clemson Notre Dame.
Made us both look like complete idiots.
Yeah, this is a game that we did cover last week. We didn't cover Syracuse, Pitt, or Kentucky, Mizzou. We both said that Wake Forest would blow NC State out. And NC State won 30-21. Again, turnovers really just killed Wake Forest in this game. I will say this. I will give credit to NC State. I'm not bashing NC State. NC State's offense looked a lot better than it has the past couple weeks.
Yeah,
like MJ Morris got another start, and he had another good game. I will say that. I think he is the quarterback of the future at NC State. However, Wake Forest kind of killed themselves in this game.
They did. The game being at State helped.
It did. It did. NC State's crowd was great. I will say this, though, that the first play that I turned this game on, it's probably in the fourth quarter, maybe late third quarter, early fourth quarter, and Wake Forest had just got the ball. And Sam Hartman loads up to throw deep, and he makes one of the worst throws I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was bad.
He's such a good player, but
he had 3 picks.
Yeah.
He's thrown, what is that now, 7 picks in the last 2 weeks?
2 games, yeah. That's crazy.
Wake Forest is just, again, they're bashing themselves at this point. NC State, like I said, has not been a great team these past couple weeks, but neither has Wake Forest. But Wake Forest is doing it to themselves, whereas NC State has just had lack of production.
You're right. Here's a question. You say MJ Morris, quarterback of the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Devin Leary's got 1 more year. Is he going to transfer to another school?
I don't know, because maybe they go with Devin Leary when he's healthy.
I think they would, but I'm saying this was State's year to make noise. And they've made, they're 7-2. They're making some noise.
Yeah.
But Devin Leary's a very good quarterback. Does he go somewhere that he could really make a difference?
I think he would have the opportunity to.
Yeah.
I just don't know what happens there. And the thing is, honestly, in these past 2 weeks, what MJ Morris, and I know this is a small sample size.
Oh, for sure.
But what MJ Morris has showed me in the past 2 weeks is probably more than what Devin Leary never really went out there and showed me something crazy.
You're right.
Devin Leary before the season was being talked as a potential Heisman dark horse.
You're right.
And he was not anywhere close to that.
No.
I'm not saying he was bad, but I'm not saying he was even touching the top 10 in Heisman for me when he was playing.
But imagine a guy like Devin Leary maybe going somewhere, I don't know, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Tennessee, probably not somewhere like Tennessee, but maybe. I think he could transfer and make an impact somewhere, but that's besides the point. The rankings are about to start. I'm not sure when they'll start popping up on the screen.
Yeah. Again, we will stop talking about what we're talking about when that happens, and we will talk about that. There's probably about, I'll keep going with these games that I watched the end of. And the next one I want to go to is in the Big Ten. It's Michigan State, Illinois, where Michigan State, a team with 3 wins last week, that was their 4th win, knocks off a ranked 1-loss Illinois. And really, there wasn't much that I can say about it. But, a game that Illinois shouldn't have lost. Illinois was at home and lost this game.
Huge win for Michigan State.
Yeah.
After all the negative press they got last week.
Yeah.
Big win for that program.
Yeah. And, like I said, they have 4 wins now. Not exactly sure what their schedule looks like from here on out. But
they got Michigan in 2 weeks.
They already played Michigan.
Illinois?
No,
or Michigan State?
I'm talking about Michigan State. Sorry. A team with 4 wins that could potentially be looking at sneaking into a bowl game.
They've already played Ohio State. They've already played Michigan.
Yeah.
Have they already played Penn State too?
I think they have.
Yeah, I think they have.
And I think they played Purdue.
They played Maryland.
Maybe they haven't played Purdue then. You know what? I think they played Purdue this week. Purdue plays somebody this week. That's pretty decent. There wasn't really anybody that made an impact on Michigan State's offense, is the crazy thing.
It's just the defense.
They scored 14 points in the third quarter. Illinois had a good offensive game. Tommy DeVito, 25 for 37, 288 and 2 touchdowns. Chase Brown, 33 carries for 136 yards. But Michigan State did their thing when it mattered.
Did you know Illinois 4-0 against the Big Ten West, 0-2 against the Big Ten East.
I mean, Illinois outplayed Michigan. When I'm looking at this, 441 to 294 total yards.
What's the turnovers?
1-1.
What's the conversions on 3rd and 4th down?
This is okay. I've found the reason. Illinois 1 for 6 on 4th down.
That's what it was.
I mean, because you look at the rest of it, right? 6 for 17 to 3 and 11 on 3rd down.
Yeah.
More yards, less penalties, same amount of turnovers, more time of possession.
It's conversions and turnovers is usually just what it is when it comes to these games like that.
And Michigan State, down this stretch, has Rutgers at home, Indiana at home, 2 very winnable games that could get them to 6 wins. And then Penn State on the road.
And they should get to 6-6.
I think they can do it, yeah.
Man, look at that.
And then that was a great play by Keely Ringo.
Yeah, it was.
Keely Ringo ran that route for the receiver. Another game I watched the end of, Liberty, Arkansas. This is a game that we covered last week. We both said Arkansas wins, but Liberty covers, so we both got half a point. I had this feeling that Liberty could really win that game, and sometimes I get those feelings and I kind of shy away from them because I'm like, that's a little crazy. But Liberty's offense looked fluent. Arkansas gave them a run for their money at the end of the game. They had opportunities to really take advantage, and they just didn't convert it.
Yep.
That's all it was. Again, I only watched the end of the game, so I can't really talk much about it.
We've both got Liberty ranked pretty high now. They're 8-1.
I mean, they're a good team. They have been a good team for the past couple of years. Again, Liberty won by 2 points. Arkansas had that opportunity at the end of the game after scoring a touchdown to tie the game on a 2-point conversion. Okay. They didn't get it.
I think they were 0 for 2 on 2-point conversions. But I might be wrong.
Liberty's quarterback, 15 for 25, 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, and interception.
Hugh Freeze is trying to get that Auburn job.
And looking at this, I think this could be maybe the reason why Liberty won this ball game. They shut down Rocket Sanders.
Did that? How many yards do you have?
17 carries, 60 yards.
Ooh, yep, that'll do it.
And he had a 28-yard run.
Yep, they shut him down then.
So, I mean, great game by Liberty. Hugh Freeze, like you said, is doing great. The conversions weren't there for Arkansas where they were for Liberty, but Arkansas had about 100 more yards, and they did have more penalties though. But the yardage on the penalties wasn't too big. 2 interceptions thrown by KJ Jefferson to 1 thrown by the Liberty quarterback. And then another game I tuned in to towards the end, UCF and Memphis. Memphis gave UCF a game. It was close, and I'm gonna be honest about this. I think that if Memphis's quarterback was someone different, they probably would have won the game. He just made some questionable, I'll say, plays towards the end of the game when they had a chance to win. And I think that's kind of what cost them. UCF now sitting at 7-2.
They play Tulane this week.
Yep, a game we'll talk about. And then they get Navy in South Florida, who they should both definitely beat. So, I mean, you beat Tulane this week. You're looking at a potential of a 10-2 going into the American Championship and possibly being that group of 5 team that plays on New Year's Day, New Year's Six ball game.
If UCF wins that game, does Liberty go to that game? The New Year's Six game?
I'm going to be honest. I think they would take a 2-loss American Conference winner over a 1-loss Liberty. I think they would.
Okay.
I think they would. And then that's really all the games that I watched the end of.
Here we go.
Oh, okay. So we have Kentucky is ranked. Wow. So we got 25 Washington, 24 Kentucky, 23 Florida State, 22 Central Florida, 21 Illinois.
Does Washington being ranked that low hurt Oregon?
No.
Because they play this week.
I mean, Washington was going to be in that back end anyway since they weren't ranked last week. I think the biggest surprise here, though, is Kentucky getting.
I agree.
I think the committee this year is really valuing the SEC.
So does that mean that Tennessee is still top 4? No. Okay,
wow.
So we have Notre Dame at 20 after beating Clemson. 19 Kansas State, 18 is Texas, 17 is Tulane, and NC State at 7-2 jumps up to number 16.
I feel like this could be good for Clemson's ranking if they're valuing Notre Dame that high.
And they're valuing NC State that high.
Exactly.
And they're valuing Florida State that high. Yeah. NC State at 16 seems a little high. I mean, it's a given that Notre Dame at 20 is high. Yeah. But I would agree that Texas is the best 3-loss team in the country.
NC State at 16 is very questionable to me.
They're a good team.
They're a good team, and I feel like I've been hating on them a little bit, but not really. I feel like it's not that I've been hating on them. I feel like it seems that I've been hating on them. And it's not the case. I don't have a problem with NC State. But, I mean, it's just...
I have Texas ranked over NC State.
I know they hung in there. Yes, Clemson's in the top 10. So is Alabama, though.
Yep. So they've got North Carolina 15, Penn State 14, Utah 13, UCLA at 12, and Ole Miss at 11.
But so that means UCLA and Ole Miss didn't move, though.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Ole Miss didn't play last week.
So who's in the top? So
we got Alabama, we've got Clemson,
LSU.
we've got Oregon, we've got Southern Cal, we've got LSU.
Okay, so it's the same top 10 then.
Yeah.
The same teams in the top 10.
Yeah.
So you're telling me
I think Clemson will be at 10 here. I think.
I just don't get why. Wait a minute. LSU might be above Oregon. They've got LSU's biggest win over Oregon's biggest win.
I know. I'm not gonna.
Clemson
is at 10.
They have Clemson at 10.
Yes.
Which means they've got.
Hey, that's big for us. That's big for us. To stay in the top 10, to lose 35-14 and stay in the top 10, that's pretty big for us.
But to be behind St. Nick and.
Yeah, I know. But I think somebody will take care of that for me.
Yeah, but if Ole Miss does, Ole Miss would probably jump y'all. Yeah, maybe.
But I feel like there's a little bit of a precedent of possibly winning the ACC championship over not going to your conference championship. Now, I could be wrong.
If Ole Miss beats Bama, they're not out of the conference championship because LSU would just need to lose one more game.
Yeah.
Which they could do, but so could Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss.
I agree.
So we both are in agreement that Bama's going to be at 9, right?
Should be.
Better be. I'm not super high on Southern Cal. I'm high on Caleb Williams, but there's no world where USC should be ranked below Alabama at this point in the season.
It was a good thing that we stopped. We were just about to start talking about another game from last week, and then the rankings start popping up. They are talking about Clemson forever. Alabama at 9.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, committee.
I still think Bama's too high.
Thank you, committee.
Alabama at 9. Southern Cal will be 8. They won't put Southern Cal higher than 8, right?
I don't think so.
There's a little bit of name recognition with Southern Cal, but
there's tradition.
There's tradition, yeah.
Tradition at Southern Cal, but the tradition has not been there the past couple years.
They do have Southern Cal at 8.
So this is where it's really big right here is how far did they jump LSU? How far did they drop Tennessee?
What if this is TCU?
I think there's no possible way that they kept TCU at 7 after they beat a decent Texas.
I think 7 is going to be either Oregon. Oh, they're stopping it for a second. Okay. What do you think? Oh, they're going to break.
what I think their 7 what I think the 7 is right here, based off of what I've seen.
Yeah.
Okay, there is no doubt in my mind that the top 3 teams here will be Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan.
In that order?
And I honestly think it will be in that order. I think the thing, well, I mean,
I think Michigan's better than Ohio State right now. And if they played today, I'd pick Michigan to win. But
see, okay, here's why I'm at that, right? I think if Ohio State and Michigan were playing this week, I think Ohio State wins. However, I do think Michigan's resume at this point might be better than Ohio State's.
okay.
But I do think it will go Georgia. I don't know if a win over Rutgers is big enough to jolt Michigan over Ohio State, even though they struggled with Northwestern.
So Georgia will be one.
Yeah.
I think that's the only guarantee.
And now here's my dilemma, right? Is I could really see them jolting LSU to 4. I really could see it.
There's no way.
But I could also really see them only dropping Tennessee to 4. However, I do think TCU should be 4. And
I saw something today that had, it was a pretty reputable source, on CBS or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Had Tennessee at 2.
Was it RJ Young?
No, it wasn't RJ Young.
Cause that
RJ Young's always wrong. Him and Big Game Boomer. That's the Oklahoma fans, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
There's been when we talk about Tennessee, Georgia, I'll start on that. But there was a lot of negative Georgia press going into that Tennessee game. And they shut a lot of it up.
Yeah. I guess while we're waiting on this, I guess they're going to break or something.
Are
It
they?
says next. If something pops up, we'll talk about it immediately. Let me just talk about this real briefly. Southern California and California. A game that I meant to say I didn't really watch a lot of, but it was weird. Southern Cal again.
A close one.
But again, I checked this week. California scored with 2 minutes left. Now, is that garbage time? But again, it's just
Here we go.
There we go. Oh, this is interesting.
Georgia is at 1.
Okay, so we're going from the top down this week.
So Georgia, clearly the number 1 team in the country. There might be a significant gap.
Yeah, I'll talk about it.
Ohio State at 2.
Okay.
I can.
That's
okay.
reasonable though.
And Michigan is 3.
Like that's reasonable. You know what I mean? Like that's not something crazy.
And I think that game this year, I'm kind of rooting for them both to be 11-0, and I think they both will be 11-0. That game could be crazy.
Like and more crazy than last year's.
Yeah, and last year's was crazy.
Last year's was the best one that we've had in a while. TCU 4.
They have TCU at number 4.
Thank you, committee, making us a little more happy than they did last week.
If TCU wins this week, like they've earned it. They play Texas, college game day. Talk about it later. But I think there's 4 teams that are 4-0. They're all in the Power 5. Huh?
9-0. You said 4-0.
9-0. Tennessee is number 5. Which is a good thing for Tennessee. That means if Tennessee runs the table,
they control their own destiny at this point.
Do they though? They will have a weekend where they don't play.
Yeah.
And there are other teams that are playing that could boost their resume.
Yeah, you're right.
But Tennessee also has that name recognition.
Yeah. But you got to think that these two sitting at 2 and 3, one of them's taking each other out.
It's true.
And if these other teams behind them get taken out, who's jumping them at that point?
But what we're going to see here is I think Oregon will be 6. So Oregon will be right behind Tennessee. Oregon's got a chance to play Utah, who's ranked.
Yep.
They play Washington, who's ranked.
Yep.
And then they will have a Pac-12 champion who might be a top 10 team.
Yep.
If they win those 3 games, have they done enough with a conference championship at 12-1 when they both lost to the same team
to go over Tennessee?
Yes.
Yes, 100%.
So Tennessee doesn't control their own destiny.
I guess you're right. They slightly control their own destiny. They have to win out. Now, do they play anybody tough? No.
South Carolina's not a gimme, but it's not tough.
Yeah. But
well, here's what I like. Is TCU gonna win out?
Dude, the Big 12 have been so crazy this year. It's like I want to say no, but at the same time, it's like I really don't know. You know what I mean? Like I really don't know.
If I'm being honest,
Oregon
okay,
at 6.
Oregon will be 6.
That means
LSU will be 7.
Okay.
But what I was gonna say,
yeah,
if Ohio State and Michigan have a classic, it's super close.
Yeah.
Do they keep one of those two above Tennessee?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I guess it just depends on what they think the gap is between Georgia and the winner of that game. Yeah. But I think TCU will lose a game. So we'll just see what happens. Another year where there's not just a bunch of undefeateds that are going to play each other. Yeah. It'll sort itself out.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll sort itself out this year. So now that's over. Finishing up that Southern Cal thing. They just don't blow a team out that was under 500, and it's like, what do you make of them at this point? They're a top 10 team.
Number 8.
On paper, but it's like, if they're not blowing these teams out that they should be, what does it look like when they play someone big time?
Well, they played a top 15 Utah on the road and lost by 1 point.
Yep.
They will play
a top 15 UCLA
and the top 20 Notre Dame team.
Yeah.
Do they win both? If they do, they're in the Pac-12 title, and if they win that, they go to the playoff. Yeah. More than likely.
Yeah. So now I'm moving up. One more game that I watched some of, and I probably should have talked about this earlier because it doesn't matter compared to some of these other games, is North Carolina, Virginia. And it's not a game that we talked about last week.
Okay.
North Carolina wins again, but like Southern Cal, doesn't really beat the team by a lot. They won by a field goal.
Yeah.
Their offense was rolling like it usually is, but they let up 28 points to a mediocre Virginia team. Now, granted, Virginia's offense is better than their defense.
Yes.
They have a veteran quarterback that's decent. They've got some good players, not great players, but good players. But again, it's just like a game where you're like, UNC should beat Virginia by a touchdown or two at least.
You're right.
And you win by a field goal. It was close the whole time. It wasn't like UNC had a big lead and Virginia came back, or Virginia had a lead and UNC came back. Right. It was a close game the whole time. And it's like I just asked about Southern Cal. It's like, what do you really make of this UNC team? Is this UNC team a team that's going to win out? They have a big game this week against Wake Forest. Do they win out, go to the ACC championship, and give Clemson, Clemson's going to be there no matter what, I'm pretty sure at this point.
Yeah, that loss wasn't a conference loss.
Yeah, I think they've clinched.
Yeah, they have.
But do they go into Charlotte in late November, early December, and give if Clemson wins out, a top 7, 8 maybe Clemson team a game? Or do they go in there and because their defense is so bad, playing a good defense like Clemson, get blown out?
I think that game's close.
I think so too. But it's just a thing to monitor, I'll put it like that. I think Drake May is very good. I think Josh Downs is very good. They have like a four-headed monster at running back that they rotate in. Caleb Hood, Amarion Hampton. There's another guy, I forgot his name, DJ Jones maybe. They've got a good tight end. They've got other good receivers besides Josh Downs. The offense is very, very high-powered. And they have good players on their defense.
Yeah, they do.
But it's just like they just allow the points. They allow the first downs when they matter. They don't get off the field. Now moving to the games that I watched a little bit more of. And I'm pretty sure we covered all these games last week. Kansas and Oklahoma State. We looked like idiots.
Well, no, we
But
don't. No, we don't.
we didn't look like idiots because we did not know that Spencer Sanders was out. Okay? I promise you, I'm not lying to you. We did not know Spencer Sanders was out. Rangel, I think is how you pronounce his name, is their freshman quarterback who started and looked very freshman-like at times in that game of when I got to watch it.
Kansas did it, though.
Kansas did it. Kansas got bowl eligible. And I'm not going to knock Kansas for this. Jason Bean had a great game, 18 for 23. He had a huge run
Saw that.
for a touchdown. I think kind of early in that game where Oklahoma State was getting a little bit of momentum, and that run kind of killed it.
Yep.
I mean, that's really all I can say about it. I didn't watch a lot of it, but, I mean, Kansas gets that win. They're bowl eligible. When's the last time you said that?
07.
And like we said that Oklahoma State was going to beat Kansas pretty heavily, and
We were wrong.
but we did not know Spencer Sanders was out. And I think Spencer Sanders in that game, now, granted, they lost by 21 points. Does Spencer Sanders cover that 21? Maybe, because he knows how to manage a game really well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But like I said, that freshman quarterback looked like a freshman. There was one time where I think it was maybe like an out and up or a wheel route. It was something down the sideline that had to develop though, and he tried to throw it, and I mean he threw it right to the defender.
Yeah.
I mean it's probably one of those throws where you kind of got to loft it over the guys and put it in the breadbasket. Where he tried to throw a dart, and the Kansas defender just jumped right up, picked it.
Yep.
Another game, Texas K-State. Had it on. So how I was doing it Saturday night, I was at home, was I had a game on my TV. I had Clemson on my TV until I turned that one off. And on my computer to my side on a table beside the chair I was sitting in, is I had it double screened. I had Texas K-State and I had Alabama LSU. But I was mainly paying attention to Clemson as I'm a Clemson fan. So there was parts of that game where I did see Kansas State made a little bit of a comeback in it. Just couldn't get it done. Not much I can really say after that. Kansas keeps himself in the contention of the Big 12. However, Kansas State just, I don't know what to think of them, because it's like they look like a really, really good team, and then they look like a bad team. And I'm not saying they look like a bad team this week, but they should have beat Texas.
Should they have beat Texas?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know what to make about Texas either. That's the thing.
I think Texas is really good.
You didn't get to watch any of that game, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I was keeping up with the score, though.
Yeah. I want to look at like just some stuff real quick from that game. I mean, Quinn Ewers didn't have it. Oh, I forgot. I needed to say that. A game where both the quarterbacks are good, but both the running backs on those two teams really have carried those off. Not carried those offenses, but have been a big impact on those offenses.
Yeah.
And the running back battle was very lopsided Saturday night in that game. Deuce Vaughn, 19 for 73. Bijan Robinson, 30-09 in a touchdown.
There's your padlock stat.
And, I mean, Bijan, there was a couple plays where I looked over, and it's like, oh, okay, he's probably going to get a couple yards off of that. Then he breaks 2 tackles, and he busts it for 30 yards.
Yeah, that's who he is.
He's a great running back. I think he will probably go in the first round this year. Conversions, Texas was a lot better than K-State. Very even in yards, 468 to 466. But K-State was way more penalized, but they did have more time in possession. We talked about that last week. I took Kansas State. You took Texas and cover. You were correct. I was wrong. Then I want to talk about TCU, Texas Tech. I was almost spot on with this game. I said TCU would win by like 10. And TCU won by 10.
feel like TCU wins every game by 10.
But TCU did have to come back in this game.
Again.
Texas Tech was giving them a great game, especially in the first half. And there was a point where my thoughts about the game flipped very quickly. This was a game I was watching at 12 o'clock. This and UNC, a little bit of UNC. And the only reason I was watching UNC was because I bet on Drake May's passing line. But TCU looks great on the first drive on defense. Texas Tech punts the ball. TCU returns it for a touchdown. And I thought, okay, TCU might blow them out. But then it flipped very quickly, and Texas Tech had all of the momentum for a long while after that. But then TCU had the home crowd behind them, started to get that comeback going, got all of the momentum, and won that game.
Okay.
That's really all I can say about it. I know you didn't get to watch it, so I guess you can't really say anything about it either. But one more thing about it, we both took TCU to cover 9.5.
1 by 10.
We were correct. And then we get into the game that we briefly talked about last week because it was the biggest spread of the week. We'll cover that a little bit later, but I want to actually talk about this game. It was Ohio State Northwestern. The weather was insane in that game, and we kind of briefly talked about it. You can't blame C.J. Stroud. He only had 76 passing yards, but you can't blame C.J. Stroud about that only winning 21-7 against a one-win Northwestern.
Look, I'm not blaming C.J. Stroud. It's not C.J. Stroud's fault.
No.
However, Northwestern's 1-7. That's a team that if Ohio State is truly improved on the line of scrimmage, if they are truly a more physical team, that they should just be able to lean on a team like Northwestern and beat them by 20, 30 points. Ohio State didn't take the lead until the third quarter.
Yeah.
And this is a concern for me about Ohio State. A team that is physical like Northwestern, but they're not very good, gave Ohio State a game.
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to do when they play a really physical team like Michigan?
That's a lot better than Northwestern.
Exactly. Or a physical team like Georgia.
Yeah. Didn't watch any of it really.
Yeah.
So can't comment much more, but I mean it's just a game that they should win by a lot more.
Yep.
And they didn't.
The next 3 games are definitely the 3 biggest storylines of last week, I would say.
Yeah. And that's why I saved them for last. I'll talk about what probably had the least impact, and I can talk about it the most. Was Clemson Notre Dame.
You didn't talk about it.
I didn't talk about it.
But I got it wrong. So
You did take Clemson to win and cover -4, and they lost by 3 touchdowns. Simply to put it, we got dominated. We got dominated on offense. We got dominated on defense.
Special teams.
And we got dominated on special teams. I mean, Clemson's front 7 looked like a completely different team Saturday night. Completely different team. I mean, Notre Dame was literally running the same draw play over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And getting 5 yards every time almost. Now, it was weird because Notre Dame, I think, honestly, could have won that game by more.
Probably.
Because what they would do was they would run that play over and over again, and they would get a first down.
Mm-hmm.
But then they would go away from it, and we would stop them. But what would happen was they would get to their 50-yard line every time almost, punt the ball, and we had no offense going. So then we're pinned deep in our territory. So when we punt the ball back, they were at their 40, 50-yard line again. However, the first half, Clemson really didn't look that bad, well, besides on offense. But the defense didn't look bad. They scored 14 points in the first half.
One was a block punt.
And one was a block punt. Now the drive that they had that they scored a touchdown on was a very, very well put together drive by Notre Dame. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I mean the play calling from Clemson's offense was terrible. Terrible, like really, really bad. And I mean the main play that really set me off was we put Cade Klubnik in the game.
Yep.
We run the ball the first play. We get 4 yards with Will Shipley. And then we try to go play action. And I'm not going to knock the play action right there because the run was really the only thing working. And I get it. You get a fresh quarterback in the game. You want to try to get him rolling on the passing because that's what we did against Syracuse, and he did a great job doing it. But we ran a bootleg. And a bootleg to me is a play that you are running when you are on your, when you're in the red zone, pretty much. Not on your own 7-yard line.
Yeah.
Notre Dame was getting so much pressure all game. And their front seven is good. I'm not going to say that they shouldn't have been getting pressure.
And y'all's offensive line isn't that good.
Exactly. And Notre Dame has a potential first-round draft pick this upcoming year named Isaiah Foxey, who's very, very, very good, very athletic off the end. And he was the main person getting pressure all game. And I'm pretty sure it was him, but I'm not going to confirm it was him. But we run that bootleg. Cade Klubnik is running backwards towards his own end zone and has to throw a ball with a defensive lineman in his face across his body like this on the run. Joseph Nada was who the tender receiver was. Joseph Nada was open.
Yeah.
Cade Klubnik made the right read there. However, because of the situation he was in, makes a terrible throw. The Notre Dame defender that was in the area comes right across Nada's face because the ball was kind of lofted.
Yeah.
Intercepts it. Notre Dame gets the ball in their own territory. And makes it 21-0. And we had no momentum. We didn't really have any momentum to start with, but we had no momentum at all.
Yeah.
We lose that game. And we'll talk about your game. Go ahead. Tennessee, Georgia.
Well, I was at the game. I sat in the student section. The final score said 27-13. It was not that close. Georgia dominated on offense. Georgia dominated on defense. Georgia had a 75-yard punt, so that we could say we dominated on special teams.
And I want to say this real quick. I think that was when the momentum changed. Was off that punt right there.
Yeah.
And
it was 7-3.
I mean, after that punt, the stadium was rocking anyways. But
Yeah.
I felt like I wasn't there. I wasn't in person, so I can't confirm this. But from the TV standpoint, I felt like even though the stadium was already rocking, when that punt happened, after that, the stadium was insane. What it seemed
was.
Like. And y'all's defense gets that play, controversial play.
It's okay. Should
have been a safety. I'm going to be honest, from a TV standpoint, should have been a safety. Wasn't called a safety. However, you get I'm pretty sure you got a decent punt return on that, right?
No, we fair caught it, but we were inside the 50. It wasn't a good punt. And then we scored on literally the first play after the punt.
Loud McConkey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia hit 3 40-yard passes, so we took a page out of Tennessee's playbook. Georgia's up 24-6 at half, and to be honest, after that we went game manager mode. It started raining.
Yeah.
Georgia could have won by more. I've heard some people say that Tennessee shot themselves in the foot in this game. I'm going to be honest, that's not true. I mean, the penalties and stuff, if you take all of those away, I don't think that makes any difference. Receivers were having a hard time getting open. Pass rush was there. Georgia schematically on defense just had the perfect game plan. On offense, they couldn't stop the run. It was just a tough game for Tennessee all around. And Georgia's just clearly, after that game, the number one team in the country.
I agree.
Everything the national media was saying about the game in Tennessee's favor just didn't come true. How Tennessee could score 50 points on us, and there's nothing we could do, and our secondary is not very good. Our secondary had the best game I've seen the Georgia secondary have in a long time. I mean, It was a dominant performance by Georgia. And I'm not saying it was flawless. It wasn't. We could have played better. But it was a dominant performance at home. Anything you want to say about it?
I don't think. Yeah, I think it was dominant. I think Georgia's the clear number one in the country, and yeah, there's really not much else I can say about it.
You gotta talk about Bama.
Yeah, I know. Last game, Bama LSU. I called it.
You did call it.
I called it. And I was wrong. I took Tennessee to win. You took Georgia to win and cover. You were correct. You took Bama, but LSU covers, but I took LSU outright. I was correct. And the final score from last week, Jacob 5, me 5.5.
That's tough.
So, yeah. Bama LSU. Again, like I said, I was watching Clemson mainly. I know I probably should have been watching Bama LSU, not gonna lie, but I did watch pretty much most of the second half of Bama LSU. Very slow start to the game, very high-paced ending to the game. I mean, LSU just had that energy. LSU really, I don't know how to say it, but Alabama missed a field goal to win the game late in the game. Gave LSU that opportunity to take it into overtime, which they did. And I said to my dad, if LSU scores right here, they're going to go for 2 and they're going to win this game.
And they did.
And that's exactly what happened. Brian Kelly is a great coach. People were bashing Brian Kelly, throughout the season. And I just think that, I don't know what it is, but I just kind of knew that LSU was going to win that game, and they did. And I think it was an environmental factor. I think if that game was played at Alabama, I honestly think Alabama wins that game. Alabama didn't have a bad game.
I don't know. Bryce Young had a bad game.
But
for Bryce Young. It just, you knew that Alabama not having receivers was going to catch up to them. And they really don't have receivers.
Yeah.
And it caught up to them.
Penalties were a big issue again. Which is crazy to say about Alabama because they're disciplined, but they have been not disciplined this year.
They're just not that good this year, man.
And, I mean, yeah, Bryce Young, 25 for 51.
If they weren't Alabama and had their same resume, they would be borderline top 15, top 20.
And I think 2 things won LSU that game. The environment.
And Jaden Daniels.
And Jaden Daniels' ability to get out of the pocket.
Yeah.
Was insane.
It was.
It was awesome. But we're at an hour and 3 minutes already.
Yeah.
And we're just now talking about this upcoming week. So random book can mean something.
Okay.
We only have one night game this week. Weeknight game. It is Friday night. It is East Carolina and Cincinnati. Cincinnati is looking. They won this past week against a bad Navy team. No offense to Navy because I have a friend who plays for Navy. But they're looking to stay in that American Conference race. Whereas ECU has not been a bad team this year. They gave good teams games. They beat decent, well, not good teams, but because they really haven't played like a great team. But
they beat UCF.
Yeah, I mean they've gave these good teams games. They beat good teams, and they're just a different ECU than we've seen the past couple of years. I feel like they're bowl eligible, and Cincinnati is looking to stay in that race. I think it's a game where Cincinnati could drop it if they're not careful. That's all I can really say about it.
What's the spread?
I'm getting there. Hold on. You got anything to say about it just in general or no?
I'm taking Cincinnati to win.
It is at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Cincinnati is -5.
I'm taking Cincinnati to cover 2. It's going to be, I think they win by a touchdown. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout, but I think they win by a solid touchdown.
There's been times this year where I look at ECU and I'm like, okay, they have a chance to be in that game. They're not going to win it. And this is another one of those times. I'm going to also take Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati being at home helps them. And I'm with you. I think they do cover. I think they win by a touchdown. Here's a question I just want to ask real quick. I don't really want to cover this game, but does Colorado keep it close with Southern Cal?
No. Southern Cal will be game planning for UCLA by the second quarter.
Okay. So, random but can mean something games this week. At 12 p.m., we have LSU Arkansas. The reason I'm putting this in there is because Arkansas has a high-powered offense. LSU has struggled to guard the run game this year.
And it's at Arkansas.
It's at Arkansas, but we've seen games this year where Arkansas has ran the ball super well, and they've scored a lot of points in those games, and they've won those games.
Okay.
Or at least been in those games. Arkansas is playing for bowl eligibility this week at 5 wins. LSU is coming off a big win where they could possibly not live up to the hype, or not necessarily live up to the hype, but get too starstruck and drop a game against a pretty good record. Doesn't show.
What's the spread?
Arkansas team. LSU -3.
You're gonna notice a theme with me this week.
Yeah.
But I think college football, these last 3 weeks is about to be insane.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna take Arkansas to win.
I kind of wanted to do it. You beat me to it. I'm going to take LSU. I think that they stay rolling and they get that spot in the SEC championship this year.
Okay. I think if they lose that game that they're still going to get to Atlanta. Because I think Alabama is going to beat Ole Miss.
Okay.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. We're definitely going to talk about that one. 12 o'clock also, Purdue, Illinois. Again, a 5-4 team that record showing hasn't actually been that bad in Purdue. Now, they are different than Arkansas, I feel like. They have lost to some kind of bad teams. But Illinois, a team coming off a loss to a mediocre Michigan State team at home where they shouldn't have lost, has another tough opponent in their conference, obviously, and is looking to bounce back. It's at Illinois. Illinois is -6.5.
Give me Illinois to win. Like I said earlier, they're 4-0 against the Big Ten West. They'll make it 5-0. They won't lose 2 in a row. 6.5 is a little heavy on the points. You know what? I'll take Purdue to cover. Okay. I'll take Purdue to cover 6.5, but I'll take Illinois to get the win.
And I'm going to, again, go opposite of you. I'm going to take Purdue.
Okay.
I think Purdue gets it done. This would be their 6th win. They become bowl eligible.
And that means they're sitting decent in the Big Ten West. Yep. They might actually take the lead in that division.
Yeah. Appreciate that. 3:30, I struggled where to put this game. Both of these games, actually, and I want to ask you what you think about it before we start talking about it. Maryland, Penn State, and Clemson, Louisville.
Maryland, Penn State. Where's the game?
Penn State. I think, you know what? I'm going to put both these in random but can mean something.
What's the spread?
10, Penn State. I'm going to put both these random but can mean something. I think because it is at home, I do think Penn State wins this game. However, I do think Maryland covers.
Give me the same. Maryland coming off a tough loss.
Yep.
I think Maryland keeps it close. Remember, Maryland only lost to Michigan by 7. Maryland could win this game.
Yeah. Maryland's a good team. I had Maryland in my top 25 last week. However, they didn't. They didn't prove to me that they could deserve to stay there. They lost a game that they shouldn't have lost. But
exactly.
And then Louisville, Clemson. Clemson has to bounce back. This is a trap game. Louisville is hot. Louisville is very hot right now.
Yeah, they are.
Louisville has a good quarterback in Malik Cunningham, which Clemson has struggled to play these quarterbacks that are a little bit mobile and stuff. And Malik Cunningham is pretty mobile, but he can also sling the rock. And our secondary has also struggled this year. However, it's in Death Valley, and it's really hard for me to pick against my team.
That Clemson doesn't lose at home.
When they're in Death Valley, it's -7. I'm going to take Clemson and that 7.
I'll take Clemson in that 7 as well. Clemson doesn't lose at home. I could see Louisville covering.
I could too. I could see Louisville very easily giving us a game. I could see Louisville beating us. I'm going to be honest. Like, I really could. I could see, and I said this a couple weeks ago about, who was it? Maybe Oklahoma? No. Man, I don't remember who it was. Penn State. Is that the Penn State lost to Michigan? And I said, this is a game where you could lose your season. Now, Clemson's not going to lose their season. Clemson's going to finish above 500. Clemson's going to go to a bowl game no matter what happens at this point.
Yeah.
Clemson could lose their last 3 games and still finish 8-4. Sorry, 8-4.
Probably still go to the ACC championship.
Oh, no doubt about it. They're going to the ACC championship no matter what at this point.
Yeah.
But and I'm not trying to be cocky with that. I'm just being realistic. But this is a game where Clemson could lose their season. But this is also a game where Clemson could keep their potential college football playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, and I think it could be ugly.
Yeah.
Clemson's offense has just been a clunker.
Yeah. Whereas Louisville's the opposite way. Louisville's offense has been really great these past couple weeks.
You know what? Switch it. I think Louisville covers.
Okay.
But I think Clemson pulls out a close win.
Okay. Last game I went to in Death Valley was Louisville Clemson. Close game. Lamar Jackson.
Was it? It was that one. You were there on that one?
Yeah. Great game. Very nervous.
Lamar's so good.
Also 3:30 random, it can mean something. We have Iowa and Wisconsin. And the reason I want to cover this game is because both of these teams are 5-4. Both of these teams have kind of been struggling. I think it'll be a great game of conference opponents.
It'll be a great game, but not a great game to watch.
Yeah, but I think it'll be a good game, battling for bowl eligibility.
What's the over-under on that game? 30?
By the way, it's at Iowa. Wisconsin's favored by 1.5.
Iowa's offense has been better these past couple of weeks.
It has.
And Iowa's defense is insanely good. I think I'm going to take Iowa to win this game.
Okay. The over-under is 35.
Wow. Okay, you taking the over?
I'm taking the over.
I'll take over, but not by much.
Both physical teams. I think I'm going to take Wisconsin.
Okay.
I think I'm going to take Wisconsin. I just think Wisconsin barely, well, not barely, but not much out offenses.
Okay.
Iowa in this game. I'm going to take Wisconsin, and because it's 1.5, I will take cover on that. So this is another game I struggled where to put it at, but I'm going to keep it in random, but can mean something. No, I'm not. I'm going to move it to big games.
Okay.
So we're going to move on from that. Yeah. I'm going to go to Kansas and Texas Tech. It's at Texas Tech. Texas Tech is -3.5.
Is Texas Tech 5-4?
Texas Tech is 4-5.
Ooh.
But the reason why I wanted to cover it is because Kansas looked a lot better than they have the past couple weeks last week.
Okay.
Texas Tech, like we've said multiple times, is a good team. But again, it's another team where their record doesn't show it. They've been in games with good teams. They gave good teams games. They beat good teams.
Okay.
And I think it would overall just be a good game. I feel like they're pretty evenly matched teams, even though the records aren't evenly matched. I think if Kansas's offense is clicking like it was last week, though, I don't think Texas Tech can beat them. However, I don't know if that'll happen again because Kansas offense hasn't clicked like that in a couple weeks. And I think Texas Tech finally gets one of those wins. They move to 5-5, so that way they have to win one game to be bowl eligible, and they have 2 winnable games after that in Iowa State and Oklahoma.
Give me Texas Tech as well.
Okay. And I will take Texas Tech to cover those 3.5.
Yeah, I will too. I don't want to say it again, but I'm going to.
No, don't do it.
I can see Texas Tech winning by 10+.
And then we'll move to 8 o'clock where this game has... Actually, I'm going to move one game that I'd put in big games to a random but can mean something. That's at 7:30, Wake Forest, UNC. I think I might have put it in big games because they were both ranked at the time that I was writing this down. However, they're both not ranked, and I probably should have known that ahead of time. But it's 2 teams that their offense is pretty high-powered, considering the over-under is 77.5. It is at Wake Forest. Wake Forest minus 3.5.
Ooh, and Wake has shot themselves in the foot so bad. UNC's been winning close games. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I will take Wake Forest, and I will take Wake Forest in the points as well.
I'm not the same. I'm going to take UNC. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay.
And then this game that I was about to talk about at 8 o'clock, Syracuse, Florida State, again, another team that's dropped out of the rankings. And not again, but a team that has dropped out of the rankings and a team that has entered the rankings. Both sitting at 6-3. Syracuse, again, has really just fallen off these past 3 weeks. They gave Clemson a game, then they get dominated by Notre Dame, and they lose to Pittsburgh. Sean Tucker has not had great games these past 3 weeks. Yeah. And it is at Syracuse. FSU's minus 6.5.
I think this is a big game for Florida State.
It is.
And maybe I sound dumb saying this. I think there's a big difference between 7-3 and 6-4.
Yeah.
Especially where Florida State wants to be. Florida State killed Miami last week.
Oh yeah. Domination. Total domination.
I will take Florida State to win and to cover against Syracuse.
So I'm also going to take Florida State to win. However, I am going to take Syracuse to cover. I think Syracuse bounces back a little bit. Actually, do I really want to do that? FSU's offense has been really high-powered. That's good right there.
He is good.
Carson Steele. That's a game I consider talking about.
Ball State and Toledo.
Well, Toledo's been okay. Ball State, I'm not even going to get into it. I'm going to stick to my guns. Syracuse covers, FSU wins.
Okay. Big games.
Then we move to the big games. So we already talked about that. That's been moved. I'm going to skip the 3:30 time frame real quick.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about the 7 o'clock time frame. First off, we have Georgia, Mississippi State. And I think this is a big game because, again, Georgia is a team coming off a big victory. They have hype. And Mississippi State has that offense that has potential to beat a really good defensive team like Georgia.
I agree.
However, I think where it hurts them at is, man, can they not run the ball?
They don't run the ball.
They are averaging 80 rushing yards a game to 325 passing yards a game. I probably should have put this in random, but can mean something because I am going to take Georgia to win. There's no doubt about that. However, the spread being at 16.5, I feel like is a little high. I feel like Mississippi State could stick in this game a little bit. A little bit. I'm going to take Georgia. I'm going to take Mississippi State to cover 16.5. It is at Mississippi State, by the way.
Before the season started, I said that this was our most losable game. We play at Mississippi State at night to beat Georgia, you've got to throw the ball because you can't run the ball.
And I just want to say this real quick because I was watching the end of Mississippi State Auburn the other night.
Yeah.
It was a good ending with the game. They're going to be in there with the freaking cowbells.
However, there will not be enough cowbell to save Mississippi State. Georgia will win this game by 20 plus. So they will cover.
I definitely could easily see that.
Well, yeah.
Then, all right, I'm skipping around right here because I usually try to save the bigger games for last,
Okay.
And this arguably might not be a bigger game than some of these other ones we talked about, but to me it is. It's at the 3:30 time frame. We have Central Florida versus Tulane.
Huge game for the group of 5.
Yeah.
And
and for the American Conference. 17 versus 22 at Tulane. Tulane's -2. The question is UCF's quarterback playing?
who, John Reese Plumlee?
Yeah, because he was hurt.
He
He did not play last week.
Okay. And they still won.
And they still won. He got hurt. I think if he is out, I don't think they win this game. So I'm going to go ahead and take Tulane and give me Tulane -2. I think Tulane covers. I do think Tulane covers.
Give me UCF to win.
Okay.
I just think UCF's been there before.
They have.
They're a really good team. I think Gus Malzahn is a good coach.
Yeah. And he's a veteran coach that's been in bigger moments than this.
Tulane, UCF, yeah.
I don't know where I want to go with this one. I'm going to go to 7 o'clock. Back to 7 o'clock. UCF Tulane is 3:30. I'm going to go back to 7 o'clock. Talk about Washington and Oregon.
Game is at Oregon.
Game is at Oregon. Oregon -13.5. That's really high.
It is really high. In fact, it's high enough for me to take Washington in the points. Oregon wins by 12. Oregon will score.
Oregon will definitely score.
But Washington will too.
I think they will too. I'm going to take the same as you.
Michael Penix is a stud.
I think Washington covers. I think Oregon wins. However, I don't think they win by 12. I think they win by 10.
Okay.
7 or 10. 7 or 10. So now we're down to 2. And it's crazy to think about that. I'm trying to think which one of these games is bigger. And I feel like the answer is obvious. So I'm going to go with what I think the obvious answer is. I'm going to go to 7:30, TCU versus Texas. Oh, my boy's great. I mean, what is there not to say about this game? The Big 12 has been insane this year. Wow.
College game day this week.
Wow. Look at the matchup predictor.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. At Texas. Texas is -7. We gotta hurry up.
Okay. Like I said, you'll notice a theme. I like Texas to win. And I like Texas. 7's a lot. I like Texas to win and cover.
I think Texas has looked like a really good team the past couple weeks. However, I don't think TCU falls.
Okay.
Give me TCU, and that would outright the spread.
Okay.
Yeah, that would outright the spread.
I would like to see TCU win, but I just think Texas is going to get it done at home at night with game day there.
Yeah. Atmosphere is going to be really crazy. I think it will be a close game, though. I think TCU pulls it out. And then last but not least, probably the biggest game of the week, it's Bama Ole Miss. It's at 3:30. It's at Ole Miss. Bama's favored by 12. Go ahead.
Bama's not covering 12. I'll go ahead and say that now. But I don't think that Ole Miss can hang with Alabama. Ole Miss has a good record. but I don't know how good of a team they really are, at least in comparison to Alabama. So I do think Alabama will go into Oxford and come out with the W.
What do you think Ole Miss covers?
Ole Miss will cover 12.5.
So, here's where I'm going with this. Give me Alabama. Give me Alabama to cover.
Okay.
I think Nick Saban is such a great coach that I think he can scheme that defense to stop that run game. And at that point, I don't know what Jackson Dart will be able to do against a decent secondary. However, I do think the atmosphere will be insane, and I think Mississippi State, or not Mississippi, I think Mississippi has an opportunity to really establish themselves in college football this year with this game, but I don't think they can do it. And I'm doubting them, but prove me wrong,
Yeah.
And then my favorite part of the week is the end of the show, biggest spread, Superdog, and hot takes. We'll start with biggest spread, and this is the reason, or not the reason why. I want to hurry up.
I saw which game it was.
Yeah, it's Ohio State again. Ohio State is minus 40 at home against Indiana. 40 is too much for me. Give me Indiana to cover 40.
Give me Indiana to cover 40 as well. That's a lot for a conference game.
Especially after you only beat Northwestern 21-7 last week. Now, I could also see Ohio State being pissed off that they didn't do what they should have last week and coming out there and beating Indiana 55-0. But
I think they're going to win 48-10.
Yeah, I can see something like that. There was a lot of big spreads again this week, though.
There was.
Go ahead and start looking at your Superdog. I already know what mine is, and that's why I said we needed to hurry up, because they're literally kicking off in a minute. Toledo is minus 14 at home against Ball State tonight. Give me Ball State plus 14.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Ooh,
and I meant to say this, sorry. Superdogs last week. Jacob moves to 1-1. Wait. No. Jacob moves to 1-2.
Okay.
I moved to 2-1. Jacob had Nebraska plus 16.5 at Minnesota last week. They only lost by 7. And I am pissed off. I'm so mad because I took New Mexico to cover 16.5 at Utah State last week. And it's 20-10 Utah State with 3 minutes left in the game. And guess what New Mexico does?
Pick 6.
I think it was a scoop and score. Either way, Utah State gets a defensive touchdown and goes up by 17. And that was pretty much the end of the game.
How about
here it is.
So what was my super dog last week? It was Nebraska,
Minnesota. It was a scoop and score with 3 minutes left on the clock to make Utah State go up.
My super dog last week, Nebraska and Minnesota. This week my super dog is Nebraska plus 29.5 against Michigan. They will not lose by 30.
Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, I was scrolling through and there was a lot of stuff where I saw. I was like, huh. But I planned on watching a little bit of this Ball State Toledo game that just came on, by the way. Anyways, and I just don't think Ball State is that bad, and I don't think Toledo is that good. Ball State has a great offensive player in Carson Steele. So yeah, give me Ball State plus 14. And like I said, I like to take these random ones.
Yeah.
That are in that like 14 to 20 range. And then hot take of the week. We were both wrong. And where I was barely wrong on my super dog, you were very barely wrong.
It was the
On
rain.
your hot take. I was very, very wrong on my hot take though. I said Cam Peoples would have 200 all-purpose yards and 2+ touchdowns. Cam Peoples had 21 rushing yards. You had Stetson Bennett 300+ yards, 3+ total touchdowns. Stetson Bennett had 257 yards and 3 total touchdowns.
Wait, what did he have in rushing yards?
I don't know, but you didn't say total yards. You said
did
passing
not.
yards.
Dang. Oh well.
So, wow, hot take this week is interesting because I don't want to take a stat line again.
I'm gonna pick a random game. I think.
Yeah.
Wow, I've got some pretty hot takes on these upsets. But
you know what? I'm going to keep this kind of lame a little. And I'm mad because I said, do I keep it lame? I said this last week. Do I keep it lame and just say my hot take is LSU beating Alabama and I would have been right?
Yeah.
I think Bama absolutely dominates Ole Miss.
Okay.
Like 42-7 type of deal. 42-10. I think Bama absolutely dominates Ole Miss.
Okay. Here's a random one. South Carolina is an 8-point underdog going into the swamp.
Okay.
I will take South Carolina to improve to 7-3 and beat Florida in the swamp.
Swamp as underdog. Okay, so wow, we definitely sped that episode up towards the end. Hit an hour and a half, so definitely our longest episode. I hope y'all hung in there because, like I said, it was long, but it's quality content to me, probably to Jacob also. And we appreciate the support last week. We got a lot of love last week. And we just had a lot to talk about this week.
A lot to talk about.
And
another big week.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting down to it. This is week 1 of the last 3 weeks. And this is where, teams either make or break their season, players make or break winning awards.
Yep.
And Ball State went 3-out on the first drive. That's not good. But yeah, like I said, I appreciate the support as always. And we hope to see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace out.